First of all, welcome. Thank you for taking 20, 30 minutes out of your day to join us today. We're going to do a deep dive on the Summer Games coming up in Paris 2024. My name is Philippe. Again, we're with On Point Events. We're a tour operator specifically focused on major sporting events around the world. I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Brittany Brewer, who's also our operations manager and our main point of contact for these large events. So she's going to help me sort of navigate the next 20 minutes and also sort of pipe in. Again, permission to engage, right? So if you have any questions throughout this, you can either put them in the chat or you can unmute yourselves and ask the question. We want to try to make it as interactive as possible so there's learning, or so that we all get to participate. And also, don't worry, we are recording this session. And so anyone that was not able to make it, or if you want to get a rerun of it, we'll send it out after the webinar today, along with a couple other helpful tools, marketing materials that you can use with your clients. So with that said, just a quick review of the agenda. So because I know we're all probably in attention deficit disorder at some point, right? So I'm probably gonna lose some people halfway through this. I'm gonna start with the key takeaways, the key things that I want you to take away from today's webinar. We're going to talk a little bit about who's the perfect client for the Summer Games, and also maybe who's not. We'll do a deep dive on the event, so the actual Summer Games and what's all that entails. What we're not going to do is we're not going to do a deep dive on Paris. So the assumption here is obviously you're all travel advisors. I'm sure you're very well versed in booking trips to Paris. So it's not going to be an overview of what Paris has to offer, but it is specifically going to be a deep dive on what the Summer Olympics is and how it's structured for this upcoming event. We'll cover our the travel experiences or the travel packages that we put together. What are the inclusions, and also what are the different lead-in pricing. We'll talk a little bit about how to qualify your clients in terms of some of the key questions to ask, and of course how we work with travel advisors and how that process will work and what to expect. And then finally, we'll open it up to some frequently asked questions. I've prepared some that I typically hear, so we'll start off with those. But again, by all means, this session is meant to be interactive, so please engage along as we go along. And then, Brittany, if you will help me on the chats, if anyone's posting any sort of questions there, just feel free to stop me on that.
Sure, I will. We just had one question, which was, are we recording? And yes, we will be. So
perfect. All right, key takeaways. So let's start with the end in mind. The demand for Paris is very high. And the reason being is that most of you will remember the Tokyo Olympics, which is the last Olympics, was scheduled in the middle, unfortunately, of the Black Swan event with COVID. So the people that had signed up for that, obviously, big disappointment. And so there's going to be a lot of pent up rollover demand for Paris as a result. Paris is also a great destination, as I'm sure, again, I don't have to tell any of you. So that's coupled with the fact that it's a great destination and a massive international event, the demand is just very high. So this is where it's also a unique opportunity for you as a travel advisors, because clients are not going to have very much ability to put this together themselves. So they're going to be looking for someone, a trusted advisor, that can help kind of steer and navigate through this. And the reason is, when these host cities make a bid to the Olympic Committee to have the Olympics come to their city, they have to guarantee the Olympic Committee a certain percentage of all the hotel inventory in that city. And so that's what happens. They get all the hotels, or most of the hotels, to sign up contract with the Olympic Committee or with the host committee and guarantee them their rooms. And so as a result, there's very little inventory available to individuals, right? And so along come companies like us, who years in advance purchase these rooms with the hotels, and we're buying 18-night minimums. So block a 10 minimum and 18 nights for the whole duration. That's the only way that the hotel sells it. So as you can imagine, but by the time individual travelers are looking to try to get accommodations or what have you, there's just nothing available. So it is a unique opportunity that way. And I think they're going to be reaching out to you asking for assistance. So we've secured some of the top luxury hotels in the market, specifically like the Four Seasons, the Royal Monceau. We'll talk about those. And of course, ticket packages, and we're able to customize that into these different experiences that we're selling for this event. 12% commission. So we're paying 12% commissions The average price for two people to go to the Olympics or to the Summer Games is about $33,000 and change, and that's kind of where it starts. It's not uncommon for us to sell packages $75,000 or $100,000 for two people. And of course, by the time you get involved families, which we'll talk about here in a moment, it can get up there. The other thing that I'd say, we've now been in business for 19 plus years. We've done every single summer and winter Olympics since 2004. So obviously we have a lot of experience with the Summer Games. We also have a lot of experience with Paris as a destination. We run programs there every year for the French Open. We also did the Ryder Cup here a few years ago. And a few years before that, there was the European Championships that were played there for football. So lots of experience both on the Olympics and Paris side, all to your benefit. All right, so let's talk a little bit about who the perfect client is for the Summer Games. So from an FIT perspective, I would say sports enthusiasts, like especially if they have played some sort of competitive sport before, whether they used to be a gymnast or they used to be, a table tennis player or whatever it may be, any sort of competitive sport, those people tend to lend themselves really, really well for this type of travel. Interestingly enough, horse owners, again, generally speaking, people that own horses or families that own horses also have a certain amount of wealth, and they're typically, when they manage horses, they're typically also involved potentially in show jumping or in dressage, both of which are part of the equestrian schedule at the Olympics. So if you have any of those people sort of in your Rolodex, did I just say Rolodex? I did. Your customer database. Yeah, I just dated myself. But if you have any of those people in your system, in your database, those might be interesting individuals to reach out to, especially because of where they are hosting all the equestrian events, which is right in front of the Chateau Versailles. So that's something to keep in mind. Bucket list checkers, people that are just looking to check things off their bucket list. We get a lot of those, obviously, because we're in the bucket list business. But a lot of those individuals out there are good fits for this. Families, especially families, again, with kids in sports. The Summer Games just attracts a lot of families. It's a great opportunity for them to not only indulge in the sports, but also to indulge, obviously, in everything cultural that Paris has to offer. So one thing I'll leave you with on the FIT front, Paris plus the Olympics equals premium plus, right? So Paris, as we know, it's already a premium destination, meaning things are not inexpensive there. But when the Olympics come into town, it kind of ends up being a premium plus type experience. So one thing to be aware of is if you have clients that are not really super into the Olympic side of things or to the sports type of things, but they're saying, well, we're going to be in Europe, we're going to be in Italy, why don't we swing by Paris and see some of the Olympics? Those individuals are probably not going to be the right fit, only because of the premium associated with the travel in Paris during that time period. So if it's one of those, I've always wanted to go to Paris, seems like a good time to go during Olympics, it'll be a lot better for you to go if you're not interested in the Olympics to go any other time, because it's going to be, more affordable. For those of you that work with corporates, we do see a little bit of corporate business as well for this event, specifically for individual and group sales incentives, but also for client entertainment. So as we're going through this, just be thinking, who do you know that might be a perfect client for this type of travel experience? All right, let's get on to the Summer Games. So the basics. It's every 4 years, and it's always in a new location. So it moves around. Obviously, before this was in Tokyo. Before that, it was in Brazil. Before that, it was in London. So it moves around every 4 years. And in 2028, it will actually be coming to LA. It's typically hosted over 19 days of competition, but these are the dates, 26th of July through August 11 in 2024. So 19 days of competition. About 10,500 top athletes from practically all over the world. 206 different nations are sending athletes to this event. It's pretty staggering. And as you all know, I'm sure, just to become an Olympian and to get to the Olympics is really, means being at the top of your sport. There's going to be 28 different sports, 306 ticketed events, and this is worth mind-boggling, 762 different sessions. So athletics is a sport. Athletics will have multiple ticketed events, but also different sessions. So there might be a morning session, an afternoon session, and an evening session. So these are all separately ticketed, which also makes it a little bit complex in terms of really narrowing down what the client's looking for, which we'll talk about. But just keep that in mind as we're going through the schedule here in a couple slides. Obviously, it is an Olympics. People are competing for medals, and you get the whole gold, silver, bronze medals. And there are medals that are being awarded throughout the entire Olympics. It's not like the first part of the Olympics is the qualifiers and the last part is where all the medals are. The medals are actually being awarded throughout the entire 19 days of competition. There's some new sports in the Olympics, which I think are pretty fascinating, interesting. Breakdancing, believe it or not, that is a sport. It'll be the first time that it's showcased in Paris, which will be very interesting. I actually personally think it's going to be in very high demand just because it's so unique. Sports climbing, we saw that debuted in Tokyo. This will be the first time, obviously, in front of an actual live audience. Same thing with 3-on-3 basketball. Surfing, that will be in Tahiti. So I don't suspect that you'll get a lot of requests for that. And then skateboarding. So I want to touch a little bit on this because part of what makes this such a unique event is obviously the backdrop that Paris offers for the Olympics, right? For the first time ever, they're going to have the opening ceremony, not in a stadium, but actually, in this type of venue here, which is running down the Seine, which is the river that runs through Paris, about 6 kilometers of river. They'll be parading the athletes on floats and boats, and they'll be going down the river, and they'll be seating, as you can see in this rendering, on both sides of the river as well across the bridges. And then it all terminates in Trocadero, which is where they'll have some additional ceremonial things going on for the opening ceremony. But they're still working through all the details. The things that we know so far is that the capacity, normally the capacity in the stadium for the opening ceremony would be limited to maybe 70,000, maybe 80,000 people. They're trying to make this as public of an opening ceremony as possible. So the capacity constraints that we've heard is up to 600,000 people. That's all not going to be seated. A lot of it will be standing. But again, more information to come on that. But I just think that's something that's very unique about Paris 24. Beach volleyball, it's going to be played in front of the Eiffel Tower. Again, this is the rendering, but what a fantastic backdrop for an event like beach volleyball. Equestrian, I mentioned that earlier. That's going to be at Chateau Versailles. So again, for the horse owners, show jumpers, dressage, what a great backdrop for this event. And then finally, and again, I'm just showing you examples, right? But skateboarding, breakdancing, BMX cycling, and 3-on-3 basketball. This is a rendering of what they're doing at the Place de la Concorde, which obviously is famous during the French Revolution for all the executions, but it's now going to be the center of sports for Paris 2024. So again, just great backdrops. But they are spreading out the events across Paris. Don't want to dive too much into this here, but the vast majority of the Olympic events are in or around the suburbs of Paris. There's some football and a couple other things that are played outside of Paris in some of the cities like Bordeaux and Nantes. And then, of course, there's surfing in Tahiti, which again, not sure how much demand you'll see for that. Let's talk about the event schedule. So the event schedule is critical, and this is really the best way to start the conversation with the client when you're trying to understand what events are going to be most important for them to see, because this will help you narrow down when they need to be in Paris. So although you'll see here on the left-hand side the list of all the different events, although there's a lot of events here, they're not necessarily all running in parallel. So a great example is athletics, which is track and field and swimming. So those are very popular events that most US customers are going to want to go to, but they don't overlap. In fact, if you look at, and I can probably do that with my little pen here, but if you look at where athletics is on this slide and you look at swimming, you see that there's really only about 3 or 4 days of overlap. So if they want to see both of those events, that becomes tough. So there's going to be challenges like that that we'll just have to work through. But the key is, here's the event schedule. What are the disciplines that are most important for them to see? And that'll help us narrow down when they really need to be in Paris. So that's the second event schedule there. So what do our travel experiences include? So we are selling complete travel packages. So that means that it's going to be comprised of transportation, whether it be airport transfers, event transfers, hotel, some tours, tickets, etc. We don't sell tickets by themselves, only as part of our travel packages. Again, completely customizable for what clients are looking for. Ticket categories, really briefly, I'll touch on this. So tickets come in a variety of different categories depending on the event. So typically there's, premium category A, category B, C, D, even E and F. So these are just things that we can work through as and when you have clients to determine what's the best seating for the specific event that they want to see. And you don't always have to have the best seats in the stadium. It really just depends on what sport's taking place. Table tennis, as you can imagine, that's probably one of those events where it makes sense to be a lot closer to where that action is taking place versus up in the upper corners. But things like swimming and other events that are played in a big, like soccer, you don't necessarily have to have the lowest, lower level, midline type seats. All right, I will pass over to Brittany to walk us through our program pricing.
Thank you, Philippe. So this is our program pricing. So this prices out our starting prices for each hotel category. So starting with our standard category, this will be our 3-star properties, and it'll start about $6,450. And then it will move up from there to the deluxe category, which is our 4-star. And then our luxury properties, which are the Le Royal Monceau and the Four Seasons. This does not include tickets, but it does include private airport transportation, a half-day guided tour, commemorative gifts, things like that. And then the tickets will be added on and customized based on your client's needs. Next slide.
Sorry, that was my job. There you go. Sorry.
Okay, so to do a bit of a deep dive into our luxury properties. So first, if you know Paris, you know the Four Seasons property there. Absolutely stunning. Highlights for this property are going to be, one, the location. It's close to everything. But also it's a culinary destination. So whenever we went to this property, one thing that the staff stated is that sets them apart from other luxury properties is it's a culinary destination. So they have 3 Michelin star restaurants for a total of 5 Michelin stars, which is the most in Paris. Now for this property, we also have deluxe connecting rooms. So we have a couple of different combinations there, especially great for families. For Le Royal Monceau, this is a Philippe Starck property, so known for contemporary design, artistic, very unique. Each room is completely different. For this property, we have a combination of a couple of different suite options as well as connecting rooms. So we have connecting rooms with between deluxe rooms, as well as connecting deluxe to suite options. So a lot of different combinations for different occupancy needs, especially great for families. So next I'm going to talk about some of the half-day tours that we're going to be offering. Now we can customize these tours if they have specific requests, but these are 4 options that we're offering for our half-day tours that are included in our packages. So first is the Classic Paris. This is going to be your top sites, must see in Paris, especially if it's your first time visiting. We have a food tour to kind of highlight some of the French culinary foods that are in Paris. We have the City of Lights tour, which is going to be the Classic Paris tour, but at nighttime. So kind of a unique spin on the classics. And then we have a garden tour as well. So all of these are options that we're giving for clients for the entry level half-day tour. We are also offering pre and post trips. So there are some great destinations that are relatively close to Paris, and something that can be added before their Olympics trip or after. So first is Normandy. It's about 3 hours or so away from Paris, and especially for history buffs, this is a must see for sure. And then we're also offering trips to Champagne, which is only about an hour, hour and a half from Paris. Great Champagne destination, great hotels in that location, and very convenient to go to. So both of these pre and post trips can be added to the base package for the Olympics.
Thank you, Brittany. Let's talk a little bit about kind of some of the qualifying questions to ask clients as they approach you asking about Paris 2024. A good question to ask them is, have they ever been to a Summer Olympics before or Summer Games before? Mainly because that'll give you a sense of, how much do they know about how the event works. They probably also will have a much clearer idea of what they want to see. And like I talked about earlier, starting with that competition schedule, and I will send that out as a follow-up to this webinar, is just a great place to start the conversation. Like, what are they interested in seeing? How many events? And narrowing down that time frame of when they need to be in Paris in order to see those events. That's really the best way to start as you're talking to clients. Determining what their hotel and room and occupancy requirements are will be important, especially if you've got families with kids. So back to what Brittany was mentioning earlier about the connecting room, suite to deluxe, deluxe to deluxe, that type of thing. That becomes important, as it'll also drive where we put them, what hotel. What is their overall budget, right? So we talked about our lead-in pricing starts at about $64.50 before tickets are added. But again, once you start adding all these different events, that price obviously does move up. Again, it's not uncommon for us to see packages that get up to the $70,000 to $120,000 range for 2 people. So the drivers of price are sort of the main culprits, right? So the choice of hotel, luxury, deluxe versus standard. How many events and which sports and what category of seating that they want, and also what sort of additional bespoke tours or additional private transportation do they need, maybe some of the add-on trips that Brittany mentioned to Normandy and Champagne, et cetera. All right, so that was a very quick 23 minutes. We are now at the Q&A section.
We do have some questions in the chat.
Okay.
So first is from Beth, and she asked, what is the minimum number of days you will do for a package?
Thank you. That's a great question. So we are doing 6-night stays. They're 6 nights. So we've taken the 18 nights and basically split them into 6-night stays.
And Natasha asked, what are the standard hotel brands?
You can talk to that, Brittany, right?
So typically our standard properties are going to be boutique hotels. So not going to be your name brand chains, but rather French boutique hotels.
Okay.
And then Julie also asked, are the 6-night packages fixed dates?
They are. I don't have it off the top of my head, Brittany, if you do. Or if you have them off the top.
I don't have them in front of me now.
We'll send it out as part of the follow-up.
Yes.
Yes, they are fixed.
And then another question is, do the hotels have family suites or rooms with 2 double/queen beds? So I can speak to this. None of them have the double queens. It's either going to be a king or 2 twins, and European twins are going to be relatively close together. Some of our larger rooms will allow a rollaway. It's going to depend on the room type and the property, but we won't have any family suites with multiple bedrooms. So they're just going to be larger rooms, and we can connect those to deluxe rooms. Let's see, other questions. Are these your only 2 5-star properties?
Yes.
Yes, they are. Let's see, curious, does this mean that the dates are set, meaning that they can't overlap 2 different 6-night stays?
So the answer is yes, but it depends. Look, we will be flexible where we can. So I think it just, we'll just take it more on a case-by-case basis, but we are trying to sell every 6-night or break the 18 nights up into 6-night stays. But if you have a customer that has a specific request, let's just work through it.
And then how soon can we reserve, or can you reserve? What is the cancellation policy?
Well, we've already started selling, so we've already been on sale for, I don't know, probably 6 months so far. And cancellation, I mean, it's non-cancelable once booked, which is really the same terms that we have for all the events that we cover.
Let's see, any pointers or thoughts on either both as it pertains to accessibility / friendliness at the Paris Olympics, LGBTQIA and or individuals with specific accommodations needs for mobility reasons?
I'm not sure I understand the first part of the question, but as far as accessibility, that one may be a little bit tough for us with the blocks that we have, because I don't think we have any of that in our room blocks. So that may be on a request basis. We'd have to work through that.
Yeah, I think we would just have to get that request over to the hotel and see if that's something that we can accommodate.
And what was the first part of the question?
Any pointers or thoughts on either / both as it pertains to accessibility / friendliness at the Paris Olympics, in regards to LGBT or other types of, specific mobility?
Yeah, I mean, I think Paris is going, if you're talking about the event itself, it's going to be very open, very inclusive. I mean, it's super international. And as far as getting to the venues themselves, yes, they will be catering for what's it called, for special access needs, right? So there will be areas, ramps, elevators, that type of thing.
Yes. What is the deposit and payment schedule?
Yep. So it's a 25% deposit, and then we typically split the rest of the payment up into three separate equal 25% installments. With the last installment is due, I think, like 2 or 3 months prior to the Olympics.
And then someone asked, can we apply these prices for groups of around 50 packs?
I mean, yes. Yeah, it just becomes an availability issue, but yes.
Can you add 1 or 2 nights to a 6-night block?
Again, we will work with you. It just depends. We'll have to look at the specific request that you have, but absolutely reach out to us and we'll see if we can make something work for you.
And then it says, Ryan, I know that some of our clients think they are too cool for packages on principle. Also, some of them have specific hotels that they are accustomed to going to Paris. So 2 questions. Can we book, for example, tickets and events with you, but not hotel? And then 2, what can we tell them to help them convince just to do the whole thing with you?
Yeah, so we don't sell tickets by themselves, only as part of packages. We just don't have enough to go around to sell them by themselves. And then as far as how do you steer them, I mean, I think the realization is at some point going to creep in, right? As people start reaching out to the hotels themselves, if you've got individual travelers, they're going to get the same message, which is the hotel is sold out. So that therein lies kind of the challenge. And again, that's also the opportunity, right, for us and for you as travel advisors.
Yep. Let's see. Side note, I will be going to the Paris Olympics, and my research attendees need to register on the Paris Olympics website for a draw to get event tickets.
Yeah, I can talk to that. So what about, that's actually one of my prepared questions. Yeah, so there is the Paris Olympics is having a lottery that you or your clients can sign up for. I would actually encourage them to do it. I believe the entry deadline is end of this month, and then I think in February they'll be told if they are going to get a slot during the sales process, and then they will be able to log in and buy ticket packages. Now, in my experience, most of our clients don't necessarily want to buy tickets the way that they're being sold by the Olympics. They want to pick and choose the events that they want. But from a pricing perspective, that is going to be the best option for clients, is to at least first try to see if they can get tickets to the lottery. And then whatever they get, or whatever they don't get, they can always come back and fill in the difference with us. One question that comes up is, how do we work with travel advisors? And I kind of mentioned it is very much a consultative process. We like to start with that competition schedule because it's a great way to narrow the focus on what they want to see when they need to be in Paris. It typically takes a couple iterations, and it's up to you, but we're very willing and happy to jump on a three-way phone call with you and your client, kind of as your partner, to kind of accelerate and fast track getting to the proposal stage and really narrowing in on what that customer wants. So we're happy to do that if you're comfortable. Will you be offering apartments or Airbnbs is a question we get a lot. The answer is no. It's just, Airbnbs, I would also just caution you, I'm sure you probably know this. We've had our own bad experience where Airbnbs, because hosts are able to cancel. They can cancel the Airbnb, I think even up to a few days before. That happened to us in Russia for the World Cup. We lost out on our Airbnb and literally like a week before had to scramble to try to find something else. So just something to be wary of. Do you only sell full travel packages, or so we talked about this. We only sell we only sell full travel package. We don't sell the tickets by themselves. I mentioned the ticket lottery again. I think the sign up is by end of this month. And then we talked about deposits and payment schedules, marketing material. So we do have some marketing material, some of which we will send out with links after this webinar, along with the recording. That you can use and send out to your clients. They don't have our logos on them, but they're good sort of conversation starters. And then if you have like specific social media or website type requirements, best thing to do is to send me an email or send us an email, and we can assist you and give you some guidance on that. Last but not least, do you have any other questions, Brittany? Otherwise, I'm going to talk about this last point.
I think that was pretty much it. I think the last question that I missed or didn't directly address was, will you send us sales materials so that we can modify?
Yep. What if the Olympics are postponed or canceled, right? So this is one we get quite a bit, given Black Swan and COVID and everything. The best answer to that is really, we highly, highly encourage people to take out travel insurance. I know that travel insurance has its own sort of drawbacks, but from a protection perspective, based upon what they're purchasing, great coverage. COVID, as you all probably know, is not what's considered a covered peril by travel insurance companies. And I'm sure whatever the next Black Swan event, hopefully that doesn't happen, but whatever it is, it may also not be covered. But there are a lot of covered perils in these contracts that are worth looking at, that do provide a sort of a get out of the trip, and that's something that I think is worth looking at. Typically, travel insurance costs anywhere between 4 to 8% of the overall trip. Of course, that's age and state of residency dependent. And then you can also purchase an additional rider. Like our travel insurance that we sell is through Travel Guard. I'm sure you probably have your own products that you sell, but we have Travel Guard offers an additional rider for cancel for any reason. That can also be added on to the policy. What other questions do you all have? I know we're a little bit over time here, so I apologize, and thank you again for sticking with us.
There aren't any other questions in the chat currently.
Okay. And you're welcome to unmute yourselves and just ask questions or participate if there's anything that we haven't covered, or maybe you've got additional questions on.
Says, could you change a name on the reservation instead of canceling? Asking because it's possible people in my area will know an Olympian, and maybe if one cancels, someone could take over.
Yes. Yeah, we allow name changes, no problem.
Yes. And then prices quoted are USD. Yes, they are US dollars pricing. How will tickets be delivered? Great question.
Yeah, so we sort of wait and see at this point, because we believe that all tickets are going to be mobile ticket. So I mean, electronic tickets. So we'll have more information about that a little bit later this year. But right now, the understanding is that all the tickets for this event will be mobile, which is kind of a trend that we're seeing across most of these major sporting events.
Yeah.
All right. We must have answered a lot of questions.
I think we did.
Again, I thank everybody for taking your time. Sorry that I ran a few minutes over here, but really appreciate your interest. We're here to help and be your partners in the summer games and other sporting events that we cover. So feel free to reach out with any questions or anything that we haven't covered. And we look forward to seeing you in the next webinar that we'll host. Thank you again.
Thanks, guys.